Hello everyone, I'm Tracy Derwin. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing the topics of giants, Nephilim, and ancient technology. So I'll be referencing the biblical text and bring up more modern references that kind of support this idea that these things existed and possibly still exist till this day. So what made me think of this topic, and I've been highly invested in this topic for a long time, I heard Tucker in his most recent interview discuss the Iraq invasion and the fact that the ancient city of Babylon is there. And he kind of questions whether that has something to do with the invasion, the reason why we went into Iraq. Here it is.
There's long wondered about. Yeah. So we occupied Babylon for close to 20 years during the Iraq War. Obviously, Babylon, right near Baghdad. Babylon is not in existence now. It's a ruin, but we know where it was. It was a dominant empire in the ancient world. It was the scene of the captivity after the destruction of the temple, the first temple. So, I mean, it has a central place in world history. Right. Was there any effort during the U.S. occupation of Iraq to excavate Babylon?
That's a good question.
I always wondered that. I always felt that the fact that Babylon was there played a role, supplied part of the motive for the invasion. I don't know why I felt that way. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't think I am.
Well, you just don't know what people are getting up to.
And I agree. I think the fact that Babylon is there and what they thought was there and the desire to take these things is part of the reason why the U.S. invaded Iraq. And it made me think of an interview that I listened to years ago. This is a ex-intelligence analyst, and he was interviewed on the channel Earthfiles by Linda Moulton Howell. She does mainly like extraterrestrial life and cattle mutilations, but he did share some information from his time with intelligence. And he was, I think he might have passed since, but he was kind of, not doing so well. And he wanted to get some of these things off his chest before it was too late. And this is what he had to say about the invasion of Iraq.
Yeah. Somebody's got to interpret this for you. Yeah. It makes no sense. And how many other species are we not aware of, or they're aware of and I don't know about? And, something's wrong. It's a whole world of deceit. We're going into Iraq to get artifacts, not to get anything but artifacts. That was the most important thing, they said.
But which artifacts?
I don't know. They just said artifacts. There were things in Iraq that were so old that we had to go get. And Bush wanted those artifacts. It was very important.
Did we get them? And if so, where did they go?
We got them. They said they got everything they needed from that country.
Where is it?
I don't know. We have it. Like you're looking for the Ark of the Covenant type stuff. Weapons like that. It's a weapon. Supposedly it has the power to kill, and you're not supposed to look upon it or anything.
But the man who was talking about this never used any phrases like Ark of the Covenant.
Never. He just said artifacts. Ancient artifacts that were so important, we had to get them, and we got them. There was more than one. Whatever they were looking for, they got it.
Do you suppose that it was the humanoids themselves working through and with the United States that wanted that technology, and we got it for them?
No, I think that we got it because of them. That's the way he made it sound like we needed this for our own protection type thing. This is very important that we had this, almost like a very big treasure. And if we have it, we're safe. They can't touch us type thing. And we've got it.
And who would be the they?
I don't know. The aliens, but he didn't say if it was the humanoid. He didn't say it was the Greys, but who knows what aliens he's talking about. They said that we had to get that, so they didn't get it. We got it.
And if they...
Okay, so she's kind of trying to get at what the life form that was helping, attain these artifacts. But I think really what was going on is they were accessing some sort of intelligence to find out where these artifacts were. And something else I remembered is a leaked email from Hilary Clinton that came out during that time. And she references that, it says right here, this was uncovered in 2018, that she's requesting documents pertaining to the resurrection chamber of Gilgamesh, the location of his body, and the location of the buried Nephilim. So according to the biblical text, the Nephilim, and I'll pull up some quotes from the Bible, the Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterward. When the sons of God went to the daughters of men and had children by them, they were heroes of old, men of renown. So these were giants, and they weren't just giants. They also had other physical traits like 6 fingers, 6 toes. A lot of them had red hair. It's documented pretty well in the Book of Enoch. The Book of Enoch is not included in the official biblical text, except for the Ethiopian Christian Orthodox Christians there. But there is quite a lot of information about the origins of the Nephilim. So they say the watchers, fell, or the fallen angels. A lot of people have different interpretations of what those were. Some say they were demons. Some say they were extraterrestrials. Some say they were just supernatural beings. And they procreated with human women, and they had these giant offspring. And they were violent. They consumed everything. They turned against humanity. And they taught humans forbidden arts like warfare, astrology. And it was starting to destroy society. So there's a lot of information about this because it has become, I feel, a more accepted topic. More people are believing that these things happen. And what's really interesting is that when a lot of the military guys, like the service guys, came back from the Middle East, they had stories of encountering these giants. Before we go into that, I'll just show a little bit more of some of the documentation. So I mentioned Gilgamesh as earlier. He was the first king of Babylon, and he was known to be a giant. It's unsure if he was a Nephilim. He might have been, but he was certainly not like a normal human. And his bed was supposedly like 16 feet long. And he was obsessed with immortality, or, living forever. That was something that he was searching for. And here's one more quote from 2 Samuel, the King James Version. It says, "There was a battle in Gath where was a man of great stature. He had on every hand 6 fingers, and on every foot 6 toes, 24 in number, and he was also born to the giant." So it's all over the biblical text. I can go on and on showing examples, but for the most part, the descriptions are fairly the same. They have an extra digit, and they're very large. A lot of things like the sounds they made were horrifying, and they're cannibalistic, and they terrorized man. Here's a sculpture of Gilgamesh, and this kind of depicts just how big he was. That's a lion in his arm. So it kind of gives you an idea of how big he was. And there's a very well-known story called the Kandahar giant. And I'll link some videos going over this event. It happened in the Kandahar region of Afghanistan in 2002. And L.A. Marzulli has done a lot of content on this topic. And he's interviewed someone I think 2 people, one of the special forces guys and one of the pilots that was in charge of transporting this being after they killed him. So I'll just sum up the story. During the Afghanistan invasion, there was a group of soldiers that missed their rendezvous point. So, the base couldn't contact these men. So they sent out a team of special forces to go look for these guys. And they came about this cave that was kind of on a cliff. And as they got closer to the cave, they started to see broken equipment of theirs, like pieces of their uniform, and also bones. And then as they got closer, they heard this noise, this terrifying noise, and this massive man with red hair came out with a spear and impaled one of the special forces guys. And the other guys, they did start shooting at his head. That was the direction that they were given. And they did take this creature down. And the giant was taken by helicopter and then again by a plane. We're assuming to somewhere in Europe and then maybe eventually in the US, like Wright-Patterson Air Base or something like that, to be studied. So he was described, but this is just, one of the few drawings that people have been putting out. He had 6 fingers on each hand, 6 toes on each foot, red hair. He was pale in complexion. And they also said that he smelt horrible, like beyond anything they've ever smelt before. And that he was, I think they estimated about 1,100 or 1,200 pounds. So he was not a human, but he was a humanoid creature. And it describes really, really accurately the Nephilim that we heard about in the biblical text. And so it just really got me thinking about I've heard other accounts of these giant men being seen and encountered in the Middle East, mainly in Afghanistan. I have one more account. I'll play that towards the end. But I did also want to make a current, I guess, I'm not sure exactly what's behind this, but there's an area in what we consider Lebanon, like near the Lebanon and Syria border. It's called the Golan Heights, and that's where Mount Hermon is. And this is a very significant place as far as the Bible's concerned. And it is the place where the watchers or the fallen angels came down to earth, saw the human women, and they said took them as wives and procreated with them. And those offspring were the Nephilim. And what's really interesting is this is a very sought after area. And in fact, Israel has recently, seized this area called Mount Hermon. And they've done it before, and it's an area that has been fought over for a long time, but it is occupied currently by Israel. It says it right here. So I do think our government and other governments of the world know about these beings. They know that they're alive. I think they know more about them than they're saying. The accounts that I'm hearing from the Middle East, when they start talking about it or after the event, the officers or the commanding officers are usually just saying to never talk about it. I don't want to hear about this, and just kind of like, put this story away. And here's one account from a special forces guy that came back from Afghanistan. And not a lot of people have heard this. I heard this on a site called Sasquatch Chronicles, although I don't think this is a Sasquatch that he encountered, but I did want to share it because I feel like, if you are interested in this topic, this might be one that you haven't heard of, and it is really fascinating. And it's a little bit longer, but it's very interesting. And this happened, I think it was in Kandahar, or not too far from it, but I'll play it right here.
I remember the first thing I saw is the hand of this. I don't know what I saw, Wes. I don't know. Sasquatch Chronicles is the closest thing I can come to guessing what I saw. But I saw the hand of this creature, and it was, like I said, like tripoded up. Like normally when I would get up after laying down, I would put my palm down, kind of climb to my knees. This thing just rocketed to 3 limbs. And I could say 3 limbs because later I would find out as it stood up, the 4th, or his other hand was inside the blanket or covering, gripping it together around its neck. But I remember the other hand, the one that it pushed off the ground with, was so massive, just so massive. I kind of compared the digits on the hand to like the handles of like a carpenter's claw hammer. Like that's how thick and long they were. And they were, not palm. It wasn't palm down on the ground. It was like fingertips in the dirt. Just like a linebacker getting ready to push off and, run someone over. This all happened in probably a minute or two, this whole experience. Anyways, I got my gun on it, but this thing is huge by the looks of it. And it's still like on all fours or whatever you would say. And I'm blasting her right in the face with infrared light. And as I'm doing that, see, well, nobody should be able to see the infrared light unless you're, wearing night vision goggles. In fact, I don't think most animals that I know of can see infrared light, but maybe I'm wrong. But as I'm hitting them in the face with this light, the creature starts to stand up, and the hand that's tripoded on the ground is moving up to block the light from his face. So it's obvious to me that this creature can see this light and it's blinding it. And I remember as it's rising up and going to 2 legs, I hear on the comms something like the radio guy or who's ever operating the drone goes, "Oh shit, it's going biped," or something, just something strange, like the first thing that hit the guy's mind or something. The radio is chattering the whole time, but I'm just godsmacked by what I'm seeing. So I can't even remember what people were calling me, but I'm sure everyone wanted to know what was going on, what was the holdup. I think it was anywhere from 11 to maybe like 12 foot tall if it stood up like erect, but it was kind of hunched over even when it went to 2 legs. The face and the hand are really the only things that really stuck out to me. I remember the eyes were quite large. I can't say for sure, but they looked all one color. I mean, it was obviously getting reflected with major eye shine. So I can't really say if they were black or they had, white around them or whatever, but they're quite large. The face to me was, I would say, very human, like obviously not human because the size of it was like a pumpkin, but it had a beard. I would say that it had a short kind of scruffy beard. I couldn't see any lips or anything like that. The hair kind of covered it, or it had, very narrow lips. Didn't see any ears. From the nose up to the forehead was, bare skin and what looked like to be kind of light colored skin, I would say, not, I'm just a Caucasian guy. So I would guess not too much darker than my own. I don't really know what color hair. I don't remember, but it wasn't quite black. I would guess it was brown or something like that, but very human, like no expression on the face. Like I said, it had one hand up, kind of shielding its eyes from the light. And then within, I don't know, a few seconds, it did a 180 turn and just booked it about 50 meters into, a conifer forest. and just busted through the low limbs. You could just hear it just crash. It's like a buffalo going through.
Yeah, so that's another account, and I'm personally very fascinated with this topic. Let me know in the comments what you think these creatures are. I do believe in giants, and I don't believe every giant is a Nephilim. I think they are two separate beings or species, but it's just so fascinating that this information is coming out and it's supporting the biblical text. Even the stories or the accounts that are, so hard to believe. We're seeing evidence of this, during these invasions. And I do believe there was something incredibly valuable in Iraq. And this is not confirmed, but supposedly they did find Gilgamesh's tomb and his body. They haven't confirmed that, but I do think they did find a body. And from that email, there were certainly Nephilim that were buried. And so, they know what this is. They're just not sharing it with us. And I do think there was some very ancient technology there that is so valuable that it was worth invading a country over. I don't think that was the only reason for the invasion, but I do think it was a contributing factor. And what that is, I don't know. Maybe the Ark of the Covenant. Some people say a Stargate, some kind of portal was there, or it could be information that explained this technology and how to use it and what it does, how to get this technology. I don't know for sure, but I know a lot of you are familiar with this topic. So please share with me what you think was, what the military wanted in Iraq and, in the ancient city of Babylon. So that's going to do it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.